Hey guys, how we doing?
Good.
It's beautiful out there. Crazy. Obviously, start out reviewing the Iowa game a little bit. Offensive player of the week was Saquon Barkley, obviously. Defensively, Sharif Miller. Special teams, Blake Gillikin. A couple general thoughts. A play that probably hasn't been talked enough about is obviously Saeed's huge play on fourth down. What a huge play in the game. Hadn't had a whole lot of action. This year, you go to a veteran player at a critical time, makes a play. That's a big one. We need to get more production and execution out of our kickoff return. Obviously, we've got to clean up our PAT field goal protection and operation. A little bit of that is personnel. Mostly fundamentals and technique things that we got to get cleaned up after watching the tape. So it'd be good having Chaz back at 6'7", 357 pounds. It'd be nice to have him back, his size and length in there. Offense, I think we got to finish some blocks in the run game and consistently protect our quarterback. Defensively, we played probably as good of a first half of defensive football that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. And then obviously in the second half, we gave up a couple big plays to a really good team, a really good offense, and a really good back. But the reality is on defense, it's one of those deals you can play great for 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 50 minutes. You got to play the full 60, and we're doing a great job. We're playing great defensive football, but I know that's an area that we could get a little bit better. A couple things that I would say, that again probably haven't been talked about a whole lot. Everybody's talking about Saquon Barkley's runs and receiving and all that kind of stuff. His tackle on the interception, where he fought through about 3 different defenders to make the tackle. Maybe one of the more critical plays in the game. I think an example of offensively, if you're kind of looking for, well, how come we didn't do as well as we've done in the past in terms of points? Yards were good, but in terms of points, I think a really good play to look at is 3rd and 2, 12:53 to go. In the fourth quarter, Penn State 15, Iowa 7. We run trace. And if you watch that play, you go back and watch the play. I mean, we hold our block for a half second longer. Trace goes at the very least for a 40-yard run, if not scores a touchdown on a 3rd down situation. They're in cover 0. Cover 0 is one of those things. It's a very aggressive defensive call, but obviously, if you can take advantage of it and split it, there's nobody left. That's why they call it cover 0. I think if you watch that play, I think that's kind of a really good example. We just got to be a little bit better. We got a little bit sharper. We got to sustain blocks a little bit longer, and that was probably the difference on Saturday. I'd probably say the same thing in the red zone. Everybody's talking about that last play. I think that last play is probably a really good example of why we didn't execute as well as we would have liked in the red zone. Is you watch that ball thrown, there's like 8 people going for that ball, defensive players, offensive players. Our distribution wasn't really good. On the backside of routes, we're kind of short-cutting routes, we're rolling routes, we're not getting to our depth. So that's why you saw way too many people near the ball. So when you get into the red zone, all the details are magnified because you just got less field, you got less space. So we just got to do a better job with those things, which I know we will. Obviously, we played really well when it comes to first downs. 29 first downs in the game, a lot of yards, but at critical times we just got to make sure we execute. The thing I'm most proud of is situational football, which we spend a lot of time on. 2 areas. Specifically the 2-minute, the game-winning drive there. That's something that we do all the time. We'll actually, as you guys know, we take actual situations from games. So we're going to do that situation again today in practice. So Tuesday is that today? Yes. Today's Tuesday. Tuesday is always the day where we do that's Wednesday. Tuesday is just speed on speed, 7 on 7, either normal downs, 3rd down, or red zone. So today we'll do red zone, Skelly, 1s versus 1s. Tomorrow we'll do the 2-minute situation from Saturday because it's such a good 2-minute situation, 2 timeouts, 80 yards to go, those types of things. So, but that makes me real proud that we work a lot on those things and then it worked out. But overall, special teams is playing really well. We went into the game saying 52 was a major factor on special teams, and we needed to make sure that he wasn't a major factor in the game, and felt like we were able to do that. Defensively, like I said, could not have played a better first half. And then even starting the second half. We started the game with 2 3-and-outs, and we started the second half with a 3-and-out. So, some really good things. So, just got to keep getting better. The other situational football thing I'll mention, and then I'll move on, is we always start practice. Some of you guys may have seen this, but we start practice every single day with a 2-point play to win the game. And there are 2 situations that step up. Our defense, stops 2 2-point plays. Which were probably the difference in the game as well. So it makes me real proud that our guys are able to kind of take that from the practice field to the games. Indiana, obviously Tom Allen, is doing a great job there. Got a lot of respect for him and the Indiana program. Obviously last year we battled with them and found a way to get a W. Obviously being at home this week, kind of an interesting tidbit for you guys. I think a lot of you guys know Jevin, our video guy. Well, Tom Allen was his high school defensive coordinator and high school head coach. Kind of an interesting tidbit for you guys. Offensively, it obviously comes down to their quarterback. Legault, number 21, big, strong, can really throw the ball into tight windows, very accurate. Simi Cobbs, getting him back. Obviously, we all saw the Ohio State game to start the year, and their chemistry and their connection together. That's going to be a challenge for us. Defensively, Tom Allen's a defensive guy. That's what they pride themselves on, and obviously their linebacker Scales being an All-American and very, very productive. So, and then the last point is Jay-Sean Harris. I think is number 1 in the Big Ten and maybe number 2 in the country in punt returns. So once again, we got a special teams guy that's going to be a major factor that we're going to have to deal with. So, I know I probably talked more than I should have, but open up the questions.
Start with Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagle.
Good afternoon, James.
Hey, Rich, how are you, man?
I'm all right. How are you?
Really good.
James, Saquon had 43 touches in a game that had no margin for error. How do you balance what the team needs from him and how his workload might affect him?
Yeah, it's funny because early in the season I was getting grief because he didn't touch the ball enough. And now he touches it 43 times, so I want to balance that as well. I want to balance, not only the amount of touches he gets, but then also the follow-up questions that I get on after the game Saturday night or Tuesday press conference. But I think we all know he's a special player, and how we handle him during camp, how we handle him during practice, during the week, how we use him, during the season. I think we all see, he is a special talent and an impactful player in so many different ways, more so than I've ever been around. Can't imagine there's a better player in all of college football. So yeah, I think Saquon is a guy that is very, very honest with us. So if he needs a break, he'll tap, and we have a lot of confidence in Andre and Miles going in there and getting the job done when they go. I think the run that Miles had on Saturday I thought was excellent as well. Andre's been as productive as anybody. Right now we got a special player, and we're going to use him, and when he feels like he needs a blow, then we'll tap the helmet. I do know when he taps his helmet, he comes out and he gets some water, and we have a stoppage of play. Joe looks over and goes, "Saquon, you ready? Saquon, you ready?" Third time, "Saquon, are you ready to get back in there?" So yeah, I think obviously there's a confidence from our team and the coaching staff, with knowing that every time Saquon touches the ball, something really special can happen. I think our fans realize that, the media realizes that, and our players realize that. So. Obviously using him as a kickoff returner, and then the balance that we're able to use as a runner and as a receiver, I think has been really important, because there's so many different ways that he can hurt you. So I think where our balance is really going to come, I guess how I'm answering this question, is the way our balance is going to come is how we are handling him during the week. To make sure that he's recovered. He's a very intelligent player. He's also a very focused player. So he's a guy that at practice cannot take a rep, and he's standing right behind the running back in his stance, going through his footwork, his eyes, and his reads, and all those types of things. So he's a guy that you can hold out and get him as recovered as you possibly can, and he's still going to get a lot of value out of the practice. So it's just managing all those things.
Bob Flounders, Harrisburg Patriot News.
Hi, James. How you doing?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. James, I know it's Indiana week and that's where the focus is, but I wanted to ask you a two-part question. Do you have any reaction or comment as to what kind of went on in football stadiums on Sunday and Monday night? And more importantly, have you had any chance to maybe discuss any concerns your players or your coaches might have moving forward, how it maybe affects them?
Could you be more specific so I know exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, the president kind of came out and said, and really said, anyone who protests in any shape or form will probably be fired. And a lot of NFL teams and players chose to react and they take it differently. I wanted to hear your reaction or comment to what the president said about protests regarding the anthem on the flag, and also, is it a priority for you to maybe talk about it with your players or coaches as far as maybe their feelings?
Well, the first thing let me say is this. We spent a lot of time discussing this last year. Had a lot of discussion about this when this really all first started. So as a team, we spent a good portion of the bye week of talking through this issue. I think it was really good for our team to hear different perspectives, to have great dialogue. To me, that's what college athletics is about. That's what Penn State's about. That's what this country is about. So fortunately for us, we spent a lot of time talking about this last year. So this year, we still spent time talking about it, but we didn't need to go into as much depth because they knew how I felt, I knew how they felt, and how we were going to handle it kind of moving forward. As you can imagine, I want my focus to be on Indiana as much as I possibly can. I do have strong feelings as a United States citizen. I do have strong feelings as a college football coach, and I have very strong feelings as an African American. So, but to me, those conversations and those things are personal. They're private to our team. What I love is I love how our guys are handling it. We're able to have really good discussion as a family. There's guys that are voicing their opinions, with their teammates face to face. There's guys that are voicing their opinions socially. And the thing that's probably most important for me is that guys don't react and make an emotional decision or have an emotional outburst. That they take their time and think it through, and they're thoughtful and express themselves and are articulate. And that's what this country is about. It's funny, yesterday I was at Rothrock and I'm coming out of getting another one of them green smoothies that we talked about last week, and someone asked me about it, and they had an opinion on how we should be handling it, and I appreciate their opinion. But to me, that's what's so great about this country, is that people have the ability to express themselves, and people have the ability to have different opinions and different perspectives, but that we respect one another, and we respect all different backgrounds. That's what makes this country so special. So to me, the answer is pretty simple. It's we're in a free country, and people have the ability to express themselves the way they think is right. And it's our job as educators and as coaches, especially at the collegiate level, to just make sure our guys are being thoughtful about it.
Derek Navarre, Wilkes-Barre Times leader.
Hi, James. How are you?
Hey, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing well. James, you worked with Brent Pry for a while now, known him for longer. In that time, what has stood out to you most about his coaching style, and maybe how has your relationship grown, especially over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I'm a huge Brent Pry guy. I'm a huge Jim Pry guy. His father. I'll tell you a funny story, not to go backwards, but Brent told me that his mom thought that Keegan was me. And I've known her for 35 years. So, but I love Brent Pry. I'm a huge fan of Brent Pry as a person, as a father, as an educator. I sit in the defensive meetings, when he addresses the defense, and just tremendous leadership and passion for what we do and how we do it. And he's a guy that really understands the X's and the X's and O's and the schemes and how important they are, but also the motivation and the development that also is such an important part of our jobs. He does a great job with his staff, with the defensive staff. There's so much respect for one another, and different opinions and perspectives and experiences in there. So, he just, I said this, I think, early on to you guys. He's a guy that grew up in a coaching family. His dad was a coach, a very, very good coach, and has learned more ball, that he didn't even know he was learning, just, over conversations at dinner, over conversations in the summer. He just is a tremendous ball coach, and more importantly, a better friend, and a tremendous husband, and a tremendous father. So, I'm a huge fan, and I'm fiercely loyal to Brent, and Brent has been fiercely loyal to me. And to me, that's really important in our game.
Mark, we're going to challenge. How many call?
Hi, James. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You've mentioned Juwan Johnson an awful lot last spring. So how is Juwan a different receiver from this time last year? And then what's the next developmental need for him?
I think the biggest thing with Juwan is confidence and experience. He's gained those things over the last couple of years being here at Penn State. Obviously, you go from high school being the man, was very highly recruited, played some national all-star games, all those types of things. But you get here, and some things that you were able to do in high school, don't work at this level. And he's worked really hard. He's a guy that takes a lot of pride in working on his craft, on the jugs machine, on running routes, on going and working out with his brother when his brother was in Tampa Bay, and training. And he's just one of those guys. You walk through the weight room, and he's in there getting extra work. You look out in the field, he's getting extra work. He's with Trace watching film. He's just a guy that's really matured and really showed up on campus, very mature, but has grown in so many ways in understanding what he has to do to be successful at this level. Always had really good ball skills, but could be inconsistent at times, and really worked on that. And now he's like a vacuum. Anything that comes in his range, especially with his length, how tall he is, how well he can jump, and then his arm length. He's going to come down with any ball that's near him. He's just one of those types of guys. I think the quarterbacks have a lot of confidence in him, and then he's also probably an area that probably goes unnoticed is when you got a 6'4", 225-pound wide receiver, that he's having a major factor on Saquon and the other running backs' production on perimeter running game. Most corners, if you had to average, I think the average corner's around 5'10", probably 180 pounds. And you got a guy who's 6'4", 225 pounds engulfing them. That creates a great situation for yak yards, explosive plays, things like that.
Frank Bodani, York Daily Record.
Hey, good afternoon, James.
Hi, Frank.
Hello. You mentioned your offensive line a little bit, holding blocks a little longer. Most of those guys are back from last year. Are they playing at the level you think they should be after 4 games? And did that, some of the things you talked about having to do with, I think Trace had like 6 balls knocked down on Saturday, was sacked 4 times. Does that also go into what you were saying about holding blocks?
Yeah. I think I said the same. I said holding blocks, sustaining blocks in the run game, and then consistently protecting the quarterback. I think was the 2 things I said. The batting the balls down. I think that's a combination. If you look at their defensive line, probably one of the tallest defensive lines in the country. I think they have 2 guys over 6'6". I think one guy is even maybe 6'7" or 6'8". And I think that was part of their plan is, that when they try to get the ball out quickly, that they're going to stay at the line of scrimmage and jump up and bat balls down. So I think that was part of their plan. It obviously fits their personnel very well because they're so long. across their front. I think the O-line is playing probably about where we thought they would. Can they be better? Yes, no doubt about it. Will they get better? Yes, there's no doubt about it. So yeah, I'd say probably about where we thought they were going to be, but I do think there's still a lot of room for growth and improvement there, up front. And I think that's what we're going to need to happen in every area, for us to continue playing and finding a way to get W's on Saturdays.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hey James, how are you?
Good, Joe. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You mentioned in your opening remarks about the field goal kicking. I just wondered if you could talk specifically about the snap and hold for Tyler and the specific problem you were saying with the last block, which I guess was a personnel breakdown. Could you talk about those, please?
Yeah, I think the snaps and the holds for the most part have been pretty good. If you watch the one, that got blocked, we had a offensive lineman lean forward and fall out of the hole, and basically between our tight end and our wing and our tight end and our tackle, guys came pretty much, unblocked, through that hole, through that gap. And again, we had some changes there, not having Chaz Wright in the lineup and things like that. And we had some moving parts. Either way, we got to get it done. And we didn't in that situation. We've done a study now, this weekend over the last 3.5 years. All the balls that we've had blocked or missed. Is there a trend there of why it's happening, and what can we do to fix it? So that was pretty much yesterday's special teams emphasis and focus. Just like Will Fries went in and stepped up in the game and's got to get the job done. That's no different than on the PAT field goal. When guys get in there, they have to, they have to punch their gaps. I think what happens a lot of times with young players, they see an overload inside of them. Say there's 3 guys over your guard, so the tackle feels like he has to help them, and he leans in to help. And when you lean in like that, you've just helped one guy, but you've created a weakness in the other part of your protection. That's what happened. We leaned in to help to the left, created a seam to our right, put Castagna in a really tough position now, and he's got 2 to 3 guys over him with no one helping him. So we got to get those things cleaned up. That's on us. That's our responsibility. But I feel confident that we'll be able to get that done.
Mike Gross, Lancaster Newspapers.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I had 3 questions loaded up, and they've all been asked already. So, but
oh, good. I'll talk to you next week, Mike. Good talking to you, buddy.
No, we're not done. We're not done yet. You said something on Saturday night about the way Indiana defended you last year, and how it kind of informed the way Iowa did it on Saturday night. And what are you seeing in that sense about how teams are trying to deal with what you guys do offensively, and how could you sort of react to their reaction, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think we've reacted to people's plans, pretty well over the last year and a half. We've been pretty successful. Sometimes it's taken to the second half to do it, but we've been pretty good. And everybody's got a theory or a philosophy on how they're going to stop us. It's not a consistent deal. 1 week it's this, and next week it's that. Whether from a coverage perspective, or whether from a pressure perspective, or whether from a front perspective. So we did see some similar philosophies, pop up on Saturday. But yeah, I think that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to kind of figure out our defense is going to stay with who they've been based on the film that we've been able to break down. Did they have a bye week the week before us? Does that factor in how much creativity they're going to have and what they're going to change? Are they going to copycat from things that they think that that other people have had some success against us? And that's what you're trying to figure out. You come up with your game plan based on all those things, factoring all those things in. And then what you're trying to do is early in the game, as early as you possibly can within the first couple drives, is are they who we thought they were going to be, or are they playing things differently? So you look at a lot of offensive coordinators, they're going to try to get all their formations called early in the game to see, are they aligning to those formations how we anticipated them to align, or in third down situations or red zone situation, or the pressure percentage is the same, all those types of things. So that's what you're trying to figure out as early as you possibly can in games, is all the time that we spent game planning, is it consistent with what we thought, or do we need to adjust based on what now they're doing?
Donnie Collins, Scranton Times Tribune.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good, Donnie. How are you?
Well, inside the 5 with the offense, is there an area you think that they have to be better as a group, or was a couple of drives there Saturday, just something that I with it a little differently, and what's the key there when the defense is really packed in and they just don't have a lot of room to cover?
Yeah, I think part of it is what I mentioned earlier. I mean, you go back and you look at that play I was talking about with Trace. They got everybody within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, and we sustained that block a half second longer. It's probably a 40-yard gain. So, when you get into the low red zone, or when you get people that are playing tight coverage, or, it's third and short, or it's fourth and short, and they got everybody at the line of scrimmage, it's high risk, high reward. And we got to get to the point where our guys get excited, when they show that look, because it's an opportunity for us to create a really big play. But, the red zone and short yardage situations, it's about details. Everything is magnified because of the amount of field that you're dealing with. I think the other thing is, what we talked a little bit about, short yardage situations, 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, or 4-minute offense, like we talked about in the past, is being aggressive. Who says you can't throw the ball down the field 30 yards in those situations? Joe spent a lot of time talking about that in the offseason. So I think the natural thing to do is to hand the ball off and run in those situations. But when you're running a one-back offense, you get into some situations where they may be able to outnumber you. So being able to stay aggressive, being able to do some of the things that we're doing in the open field and normal down situations, I still think have a lot of merit. But I think more than anything, it's us sustaining blocks, a second longer, or it's protecting the quarterback for a second longer, because I think we have shown over time when we do that, we're one of the more explosive, one of the more efficient, productive offenses in the country.
We'll open up to questions here in the room. Raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you. Team Altoona, take a million.
Well, how about that?
Hey, James.
Hey, how are you?
During the preseason, everybody kind of figured Saquon would get a lot of attention. That certainly has been the case. How do you think he has handled everything so far, and what will the balance have to be going forward as more people want some of his time and interviews and comparisons to Barry Sanders? How do you think he'll handle all of those things?
Well, all I can do is base it on what I've seen since he showed up on campus, and he's handled these things really well, probably better than anybody I've ever seen, especially at his age. The hard part is really not for Saquon, it's on Chris, because she's disappointing you guys. I mean, the reality is, we get literally hundreds of interview requests per week, and we want to obviously take care of you guys, our local beat writers that are here all the time covering our team, and balance that with some national coverage for Saquon and for our program as well, which is important. But we're saying no a lot, and that's where we, as the head coach and as Chris, what is your specific title?
Associate Director of Strategic Communications.
There's a lot of words there. She's the boss. She's the media boss of football. But basically, it's our job to manage that and make sure that Saquon has the time to be the best student he possibly can, be the best teammate he possibly can, still prepare to be successful on Saturdays, but also allow people, in this community and across the country to get to know him, because he's a special young man. And it's that fine balance that we're trying to, find, with all of that.
You've been talking about the short yardage offense. I'm just wondering, is there much thought to tweaking it that could include an occasional quarterback sneak or use of a fullback? And then the other thing, you mentioned the game-winning.
I'm just curious, is this a question or a recommendation from
Well,
you?
I phrased it in the form of a question.
Right. No. No.
The answer is no?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I move to another one?
Yeah, is this going to be a question?
The first one was a question. I said, is there?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The last play that you brought up, you said that there was a lot of traffic in there. I was wondering, was that what you wanted? You had Hamilton and Tompkins crossing into the primary receiver, or was to Johnson?
Yeah, I think I already said it. But what happens is on the back side of the route, we cut short our depth, and we did not get our width, and we sped into the routes faster than they should have. So we ended up with a bunch of people near the ball, and our distribution wasn't right. And those things are magnified in the red zone. If you come up short, you're going to end up with too many people around the ball.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This morning, Ryan Bates said on the conference calls that he thought that Will Fries held his own against Iowa. How do you think Will did? I think for a true freshman, a redshirt freshman starting on the road in a really tough environment, I thought he did well. You know, he's a very mature guy. He's very prideful. He's gotten big and strong and physical. And, you know, I think that's a really good front. I think it's a really good team. And, you know, I don't know if that's the ideal situation that you want your first start to be in from a coach perspective, but I thought he handled it really well. I think he's going to grow from it. Did he play perfect? No. Is there areas that he can get better? Yes, there's no doubt about it. But I actually think, I think long term this is going to pay dividends for him and for us. Just having another guy that's been in there, in the heat of the battle, in a very tough situation. So I think we feel pretty good about our depth inside. We got to continue developing our depth at the offensive tackle position, and he's one of those guys. So it's great, that we've been able to go on the road in the Big Ten against an undefeated opponent and win with a redshirt freshman offensive tackle starting his first game.
Hello, James.
Hello.
I'm wondering, we saw Kevin Givens out at end a little bit during this past week's game. I can't recall seeing that before. What kind of went into you guys switching up that package a little bit, and what do you like when you have guys like that and you can move around?
Well, I think that was probably one of the better coaching decisions that we made last week, that Brent Pry made and Sean Spencer made last week, is we're playing a power running team. We lose, obviously, Torrance Brown, and we feel good about our depth and talent that we have at the defensive end position, but we're young. So are you going to put a young, inexperienced, maybe slightly undersized guy out there, or are you going to take one of your D tackles who started out at defensive end, and now you got a 285-pound defensive end at the point of attack, when we all know they want to run the ball. So I think that's one of the kind of the storylines behind the scenes that went into our success in that game, is having Kevin rotate and feeling so good about guys like Chavis and Windsor and those guys behind him that we could take one of those D tackles and move them out and create a little bit more of experience on the edge and a little bit more size on the edge. So that was literally a Sunday discussion as a staff. Probably more so me and the defensive staff about what they were thinking and why, and I think it was critical to our success on that side of the ball on Saturday.
Will you guys be open to continue doing that then? Is it kind of
if it fits the game plan and who we're playing that week? I don't know if we would do that probably against a spread team, but maybe against one of those types of teams, possibly.
Hey James, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I want to ask you about Indiana linebacker T. Gray Scales. What is your assessment of his skill set, and what sort of challenges does he present for an offense with those skills?
Yeah. I think that the biggest thing with him is he's a physical guy. He's got really good instincts. I think his greatest strength is in the box. Getting the defense lined up, making adjustments, and being a physical downhill player from tackle to tackle. I think probably the area he's improved, over the last couple of years is outside of the box, being able to make plays on the perimeter, running from sideline to sideline. I think that's a natural evolution for a middle linebacker is, a lot of times those guys, are really, good at stopping the run and underneath coverage and things like that early on in their career, and as they develop. I think, Jason Cabinda in a lot of ways. Jason Cabinda goes from 250 pounds to 235 pounds, knowing that he's physical and big enough to hold up at 235 pounds in between the tackles. But for him to be the every down Mike linebacker that he wants to be and we want him to be, he's got to be able to play sideline to sideline. And I think you see a lot of that with this young man as well. But I think the thing that jumps out is just how productive he is and how efficient with his movements he is. And obviously has tremendous instincts.
James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So Indiana obviously has two really good receivers in Nick Westbrook and Simi Cobbs, but I mean they've been in a tough spot injury-wise with Simi missing last year and Nick missing this year pretty much. So how has their passing attack changed? Because I mean I know they're both really good players, but I mean every receiver's got a little bit different of a skill set.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed a whole lot, to be honest with you. I think Simi Cobbs is the difference maker for them that they missed last year. You're talking about a guy who's 6'4", 220 pounds, averaging 12.7 yards per catch, I think, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the plays that he made against Ohio State were just fantastic. The two of them, the back shoulder fades, the over the shoulder fade balls, making the catch on the sideline, contested catches, guys hanging all over him and coming down with, circus catch after circus catch. So those guys are matchup problems. The fortunate thing for us is our defensive backs are used to going against wide receivers that size in practice when you go against Irvin Charles and Juwan Johnson every single day, and even
Blackman?
No. Redshirt freshman from Baltimore.
Daylon,
thank you. I had my mind was froze right there. Daylon, I apologize. But Daylon's another 6'4", 215-pound wide receiver who's really improved over the last year. So I think those guys, having to defend those guys in practice all the time, I think helps. Does that mean that we're going to be completely prepared and ready for Simi Cobbs? We'll find out Saturday. But I do think the accumulated reps that our guys have gotten going against big receivers in practice through camp and through the season so far, I think helps.
Hey James, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I was just wondering about Troy Apke and what you've seen from him. A lot of times he seems like one of those guys in the secondary that flies under the radar. He had a big block field goal on Saturday. How would you evaluate him overall?
Yeah, I think Troy's playing extremely well. Our coaching staff has a lot of confidence in him. Very mature, very athletic, runs as well as anybody in our secondary. I think he just keeps getting better each week, growing from all the reps and the experiences that he's getting, his confidence. We think he's going to have a tremendous year. I think you're just going to see him continue to get better as the season goes on. Very smart, cerebral player back there. Very good from a coverage perspective as well, a lot of confidence. Tremendous ball skills, obviously being a former wide receiver and those types of things. So I know Brent Pry and Tim Banks have just tremendous confidence in him and Marcus and the combination of those two, and then obviously continue to develop Aaron and Nick behind them, behind those guys. We feel really good about the 4 safeties that we're playing with.
Hey Coach, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, Mike DeBoer, the offensive coordinator for Indiana. How are they different under him than, say, with Kevin Wilson?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I think we all realize Kevin did such a great job on the offensive side of the ball, and while he was at Indiana, I don't know how many school records they broke and gave a lot of people problems. I think he's done a really good job of coming in. You're talking about a veteran, experienced coach, and what I think he did a really good job of is saying, okay, these are the things in my background that I'm very comfortable doing, and we're going to run those. But there's some things that they did in the last offense that the quarterback has confidence in, the receivers have confidence in, and we're going to keep doing those things. I'm going to add them to what I do. I think you see that all the time, and sometimes it works and more times it doesn't, where a coach goes out and hires a coordinator to come in and not run their system, but run the system that's already in place. And that's a really challenging, difficult thing to do. You're hiring that guy because he was successful running his offense, and now you're going to try to get him to adjust. And I know, from a common sense perspective, it makes more sense for your program to keep the same system because the coaches know it, the players know it. But at the end of the day, that play caller needs to know the strengths, the weaknesses, how to solve problems, and their system is what they know the best in doing that. So I think a veteran coach like him, he's done a really good job of saying, okay, here's my system, and there's a few elements from the previous regime that still fit what I'm doing, and we're going to be able to add them. And I think that's what you see. I think that's what you see.
Anything else, Rick? There's one in the back too. Way in the back in the camera.
Thank you. Since it's Indiana week, I couldn't let you escape without a Tommy Stevens question. Going back to his recruitment, obviously we've seen the 2 quarterback package this year, but what do you remember about him? Because I think schools were also looking at him as the safety at that time too.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I know we were strictly looking, it's not like the Trace story, we were strictly looking at him as a quarterback. So I can't really speak on that. But he was a kid that we were really excited about, a kid that we knew early on, and then we had gotten some commitments before it really ever got going. And then we were able to kind of be fortunate enough to go back on a guy that we already kind of knew. And I think that's kind of how the recruiting process is kind of changed now, is sometimes guys commit to you before you're ever even really able to get into the process, especially for a kid that maybe is out of our region. We're going to obviously know about guys in our region a little bit earlier, but he's a guy that we were able to go back on. Great family, athletic family, great mom, dad, brother, sister. I wonder, I just kind of caught myself there about making a recruiting comment about his family. I probably can't say that. But just a great family, great high school program. Football is very, very important to him. And I think once they were able to come here and kind of see the stage and see the opportunity, and we just got to keep developing Tommy. We have so much confidence in him and so much faith in him. Want to keep him involved in the game plan, and I think he sees kind of how this thing is evolving and how it's going, and when his opportunity is going to come, I'm not sure, but based on how he's handling everything, I know he's going to be ready when it comes. So couldn't be more proud of him and how he's grown in every area, and we are blessed and we're fortunate to have those guys.
Time for 2 more.
Way in the back, James, next to the camera, right in front of you. Just go all the way to the back. Hey, how are you?
Good. You're kind of in the shadows.
Yeah, it's hard to sometimes get questions when you're all the way back here. So, going back to the acts of protest in the NFL this weekend.
The what? Say it again.
The acts of protest in the NFL this weekend. I know you mentioned briefly that there have been players that are expressing themselves within the team and also on social media. I know one player I saw in particular was Lamont Wade. He posted a couple of videos. He seems to be having dialogue with followers of his, things like that. He describes himself as an activist on his Twitter profile. Well, 2 questions. 1, have you seen any of his videos? And 2, when you see a player in particular who has a strong desire to have these conversations, do you give him a platform within the team to have those conversations, or do you seek him out maybe privately to talk about it?
Yeah, we had an open discussion last year, in detail, kind of with our team, with our entire team. This year we kind of talked about it in detail with the leadership council, and then kind of let them talk and kind of get back to me. But specifically for Lamont, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him because he spent time thinking about what's on his heart and what's on his mind, and expressing himself, and being thoughtful, and being articulate, And to me, that's what college athletics is all about. That's what Penn State's all about. That's what our country is supposed to be all about. You know, embracing differences. You know, appreciating that our differences is what makes our country so strong and so great and so wonderful. And I think we're probably in a time right now where that's probably not being focused on enough, and that's probably not being emphasized enough. We're focused on our differences from a negative perspective, and we really should be focusing on our differences from a positive perspective, and it's what made this country so powerful and so wonderful and so, you know, so special for so many people for so many years. You know, and that's why I was very proud of Lamont, because he took time and expressed himself, and to me that's really good, you know. And there could be somebody else that has a complete opposite perspective of Lamont's, but as long as they're thoughtful and caring and looking at things from as many different perspectives and angles, which I think is something that we probably all should do more of. You know, kind of look at it from our perspective and our world and our perspective and how we were raised and how we grew up and the area that we live in. I think the important thing is making sure that you're looking things from both perspectives. And I think you guys have heard me talk about before with my background, being biracial, African American, and my mom, you know, being from being Caucasian, being from England. You know, I think that's one of my you know, greater strengths is, you know, I can look at things from a lot of different perspectives. So, you know, that's what I want our team to do, is to be able to have dialogue and be able to have love for one another and support for one another and respect each other. Not always agree, but respect. And to me, that's what we're trying to do in our locker room, and that's what we're trying to do on our team. With also trying to keep the balance that we need to get ready and we need to get prepared for Indiana. But you need to balance both of them because that's part of our job too.
Thank you very much, Coach.